He smiled. "My love, prepare yourself." What the Apache revealed left her breathless western love. The rolling hills, the endless sky, and the whispering winds that carried the scent of pine and wildflowers made her heart feel lighter than it ever did back home. She was not born in this land, but her family had moved west in search of opportunity, a new life far from the crowded towns and noisy streets they had left behind. Clara often found herself wandering along the edges of the meadows and forests, feeling a strange sense of freedom she had never known. The world seemed bigger here, full of possibilities, and she wanted to see all of it. That evening, the sun hung low in the sky, painting the horizon with streaks of gold and amber. Clara walked slowly along the riverbank, her boots sinking slightly into the soft, damp soil. She loved the sound of the water as it flowed over smooth stones, carrying stories from places she could only imagine. Birds sang high above, their songs mingling with the rustling of the trees. Clara had always felt a quiet peace in nature, a sense that the world was larger than her worries, that there was a rhythm to life she could feel in her chest but could never quite explain. As she walked further, she noticed footprints along the edge of the river. They were not the kind left by settlers or travelers, but different, smaller, narrower, and more precise. Clara felt a shiver of curiosity run through her. She had heard stories from local families about the native tribes who still roamed parts of the land, but she had never met anyone from those communities. Her parents had cautioned her to be careful, but Clara's curiosity often outweighed her caution. Something about those footprints pulled her forward, urging her to see who had passed this way. Soon she saw him. He was standing a few feet away, watching the river, his posture calm and steady. His skin was a warm brown, his hair long and dark, tied neatly behind his head. There was a quiet strength about him, a presence that seemed connected to the earth itself. Clara's breath caught for a moment. She had never seen anyone like him before. He turned his head slightly, as if sensing her gaze, and his eyes met hers. They were deep, thoughtful eyes that seemed to see more than just her appearance. There was a gentleness in them, but also a quiet confidence, as though he belonged to the land in a way she could never fully understand. "Hello," Clara said softly, unsure of what else to say. The sound of her voice felt loud against the gentle murmur of the river. The man smiled, a small, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Hello," he replied, his voice calm and steady like the river itself. There was no tension in him, no judgment, only a quiet acknowledgement of her presence. Clara felt a strange sense of relief wash over her. She had expected caution or even fear, but instead there was openness, and it made her heart beat a little faster. His name was Kiona. Clara learned this as they began to talk, slowly at first, exchanging small details about themselves. Kiona spoke of the land, the rivers, the mountains, and the forests as if he knew every inch of it intimately. He told her about the plants and animals, about the stars, and how they guided travelers at night. Clara listened, fascinated, realizing that he saw the world in a way she had never imagined. Everything he described was full of meaning, connected in ways that made her feel both humble and awed. They walked along the river together, keeping a respectful distance but sharing stories and laughter. Clara discovered that Kiona had a gentle humor, a way of noticing small, beautiful details that others might overlook. He pointed out a cluster of wildflowers and explained their names, their uses, and the stories associated with them. He showed her the tracks of animals, teaching her how to read them, how to know where they had come from and where they were going. Clara found herself leaning closer, wanting to remember every word, every movement, every detail. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with shades of pink and violet, Clara felt a warmth in her chest she could not name. It was not just curiosity, not just admiration. It was something deeper, a connection that seemed to transcend words. She realized that she had never met anyone who made her feel so understood, so seen. in the short span of a single afternoon. Kiona did not rush her, did not demand her attention. He simply shared the world with her, and in doing so, he had invited her to belong, even for a moment, in a place that had always felt too big to comprehend. Eventually, they stopped at a small clearing near the river. The air was cooler now, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild herbs. Kiona sat on a large flat rock and gestured for Clara to sit beside him. They did, side by side, watching the last light fade behind the distant hills. Silence settled between them, but it was a comfortable silence, the kind that happens when two people do not need to fill every moment with words. Clara felt a surge of gratitude and wonder. She had grown up in a world where people often judged too quickly, where fear sometimes overshadowed kindness. Yet here, beside Kiona, she felt only openness and trust. He did not ask her to change, did not challenge her beliefs. He simply shared his world and invited her to see it through his eyes. And in that invitation, Clara discovered something she had been longing for without even knowing it, a sense of belonging, a feeling that she could be herself and still be accepted, admired, and cherished. As the evening deepened into night, Kiona spoke again, his voice soft and steady. "The land has a way of teaching patience," he said. "It asks us to observe, to listen, to understand before we act. And those who listen, they see the truth in ways others cannot." Clara nodded, absorbing the words. She realized that she had always rushed through life, always eager to reach the next step without pausing to notice the beauty along the way. Kiona's presence reminded her that there was value in slowing down, in paying attention, in allowing the world to unfold before her naturally. When it was time to part ways, Clara felt a pang of sadness. She did not want this encounter to end. Kiona stood, offering a hand to help her rise. Their hands touched, and she felt a warmth that lingered long after he stepped back. "Until tomorrow," he said simply, as though it were certain they would meet again. Clara nodded, a smile spreading across her face. She knew she would return to this river, to this place, and to this man who had left such a gentle mark on her heart. As she walked back toward her family's cabin, the sky now dotted with stars, Clara felt a mix of excitement and calm she could not easily explain. The world was vast, sometimes unpredictable, and at times lonely, but moments like this made it feel full of promise. She thought of Kiona, of his quiet confidence and his deep connection to the land, and she realized that meeting him had changed something inside her. She did not yet understand what the future would hold, but she felt certain that her life had grown richer simply because of this afternoon. That night, as she lay in bed, Clara replayed every moment, the sound of the river, the warmth of the sun, the gentle smile on Kiona's face. She felt a quiet excitement, not just for the possibility of seeing him again, but for the ways he had opened her eyes to a world she had always noticed but never fully appreciated. And though she did not know what challenges might come, she felt a spark of courage, a sense that perhaps, with someone like Kiona by her side, she could face whatever the West had in store. The night passed slowly, the stars above shining like tiny beacons of hope and wonder. Clara fell asleep with a sense of anticipation, a feeling that her life was beginning to shift in ways both mysterious and beautiful. And somewhere, under the same sky, Kiona returned to his home, carrying with him the memory of a young woman whose curiosity and openness had touched him as deeply as his stories had touched her. The river continued to flow, constant and unwavering, as if it, too, knew that something important had begun along its banks that day. And though the world around them was full of challenges, Clara felt a quiet certainty that this meeting, unexpected, simple, and yet profound, was the beginning of a journey she would never forget. After that first evening by the river, Clara could not stop thinking about Kiona. His presence, calm yet powerful, lingered in her mind like the scent of wildflowers carried on the wind. She found herself recalling the way he had spoken about the land, the care in his eyes, and the warmth of his smile. It was not just admiration she felt. It was a curiosity and fascination that grew stronger each day. She longed to see him again, to learn more about the world he moved through with such ease and confidence. The next morning, Clara awoke before sunrise, her thoughts filled with the river, the clearing, and Kiona. She dressed quickly and slipped out of the cabin while her family was still asleep. The cool morning air filled her lungs as she walked along the familiar path to the riverbank. Mist hovered over the water, curling like soft clouds, and the first rays of light painted everything in gold. Clara felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with nervousness. She did not know if Kiona would be there, but hope pushed her forward. When she arrived, he was already there, kneeling by the water, studying something with focused attention. Kiona looked up and smiled when he saw her, and Clara's heart leapt. "Good morning," she called softly. "Good morning," he replied. His voice carried the calm assurance of someone completely at ease in the world around him. There was a gentle respect in the way he spoke, a sense that he truly saw her and recognized her presence as something valuable. Clara felt her nervousness ease immediately. Over the next few days, Clara and Kiona met almost daily by the river. Their conversations grew longer and more personal. Clara shared stories of her life with her family, the struggles and joys of moving west, and the little dreams she kept quietly in her heart. Kiona listened with patience and attention, never interrupting, never judging. And when it was his turn to speak, he shared stories of his people, the lessons passed down by his elders, and the traditions that connected him to the land in ways Clara had never imagined. Kiona taught her how to notice details she had overlooked before. The way the wind moved through the trees, the tracks animals left in the soft soil, the subtle changes in the river that indicated rain upstream. Clara found herself fascinated by how much there was to learn and how little she had noticed in the world around her. She began to walk more slowly, to observe more carefully, and to appreciate the small wonders that surrounded her. Kiona's presence encouraged her to see the world not just as a place to live, but as a living, breathing entity full of lessons and stories waiting to be discovered. Yet, as their bond grew, Clara also became aware of the challenges they faced. The world beyond the riverbank was not always welcoming. Her family, though kind and loving, had their own ideas about whom she should spend time with. Some neighbors whispered that she should not befriend someone from Kiona's tribe, that such relationships could bring trouble. Clara felt torn between the excitement and warmth she felt with Kiona and the fear of what others might think. At the same time, she noticed a tension in Kiona as well. He would sometimes pause, his expression thoughtful, as though carrying a burden he could not share easily. Clara sensed that his life, like hers, was not free of expectations and challenges. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Kiona led Clara to a hill overlooking the river. They sat side by side, letting the silence stretch between them. Finally, Clara spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "I feel different when I'm with you, like I understand things I never noticed before." Kiona turned to her, his eyes reflecting the last light of day. "The land teaches us patience and observation," he said softly, "but it also teaches us about trust. When you open yourself to it, to others, you discover more than just the world around you. You discover yourself." Clara nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She realized he was not just teaching her about nature or survival. He was teaching her about life, about listening, understanding, and appreciating the connections that exist between people and the land, and even within herself. As the days turned into weeks, their friendship blossomed quietly, yet unmistakably. Clara began to feel a sense of belonging she had never known. With Kiona, she could speak freely, laugh openly, and even sit in silence without feeling uncomfortable. She began to notice the little things that made him remarkable, The way he moved with confidence, yet without arrogance. The way his eyes lit up when he spoke of something he loved, and the subtle ways he cared for the animals and plants around him. Every moment with him seemed to teach her something new, not just about the land, but about life, kindness, and trust. However, Clara's growing feelings were not without fear. She knew the outside world could be harsh and unforgiving. There were rules, expectations, and boundaries she could not ignore. And yet, the more she learned about Kiona, the more she realized that what they shared was rare and precious. It was not just affection, it was respect, understanding, and a shared love for a world many others failed to notice. One afternoon, Kiona took her deeper into the forest than she had ever been. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting patterns on the ground that seemed to dance with every step. Clara listened intently as he explained the uses of different plants, the signs of approaching weather, and the tracks left by animals. At one point, he paused beside a cluster of unusual flowers. "These are special," he said. "They are used in ceremonies to honor life and growth. They remind us to be grateful for what we have and to give back to the land in return." Clara reached out to touch the petals, feeling their soft texture. She looked at Kiona, her eyes wide with curiosity. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I've never seen anything like it." Kiona smiled gently. "There is beauty everywhere if you only take the time to see it." As they continued walking, Clara felt a deeper sense of connection, not just to Kiona, but to the land itself. She realized that every story he told, every lesson he shared, was a bridge between worlds, between her upbringing and his traditions, between the human heart and the natural world. She felt privileged to witness it, honored that he trusted her enough to share it. Yet with every day that passed, Clara also felt the tension of uncertainty. She wondered what the future held for them. Could their bond survive the scrutiny of society? Would Kiona's responsibilities to his people ever pull him away from her? And most importantly, could she reconcile her own fears with the growing love in her heart? These questions lingered like shadows, even as the sun painted the horizon in golden hues. One evening, as the first stars began to appear in the sky, Kiona and Clara sat beside the river once more. The water reflected the sky's colors, a mirror of peace and quiet wonder. Kiona turned to her, his gaze steady and kind. "The world can be difficult," he said softly. "People may not always understand, but when you find something worth holding onto, you must have courage. Courage to listen, to learn, and to stand by what you believe." Clara felt a lump in her throat. She understood the truth of his words. Life would not be simple, and love, especially theirs, would face challenges. But in that moment she felt a resolve growing within her. She would not run from her feelings, nor from the lessons he was teaching her. She would face the future with openness and courage, just as Kiona had encouraged. As night fell and the stars glittered above, Clara and Kiona made their way back to the cabin. The path was familiar now, yet it felt different, as though each step carried the promise of new discoveries and shared adventures. Clara's heart was full, not just with affection for Kiona, but with a deeper understanding of patience, trust, and the beauty of connection. That night as she lay in bed, Clara thought of the river, the hills, the forest, and Kiona. She realized that the world could be vast and challenging, but moments of true connection, like those she shared with him, were rare and precious. They were worth protecting, worth nurturing, and worth believing in. And even though tomorrow and the days beyond were uncertain, Clara knew she had begun a journey of the heart and spirit that would stay with her forever. The days grew warmer, and the golden light of late afternoon stretched across the rolling hills. Clara and Kiona had spent countless hours together, wandering the forests, learning from the land, and sharing stories about their lives. Yet, there was a quiet tension in the air, an unspoken feeling that something important was waiting to happen. Clara sensed it, though she could not name it, and Kiona seemed to feel it too. One evening, As the sun began its slow descent behind the distant hills, Kiona approached Clara with a look of determination in his eyes. He had been quieter than usual during the day, thoughtful, as though weighing a decision. Clara noticed immediately. There was a solemnity in his presence that made her heart beat faster, not with fear, but with anticipation. "Clara," he said softly, "I want to show you something very special, something few people ever see." His voice was calm, yet carried a weight that made her sit up straighter, curiosity blending with excitement. "Special." "What is it?" Clara asked, trying to hide the flutter in her chest. "You will see soon," Kiona replied with a small smile, but his eyes remained serious. "But you must be prepared. This is not just a place or a story. It is sacred, and it requires respect." Clara felt a thrill run through her. She had already learned so much from him, lessons about the land, about life, about patience. But she could tell this was something deeper, something personal. She nodded quietly, feeling a mix of reverence and eagerness. "I am ready," she said, though the truth was, she had no idea what lay ahead. They set off together, walking through a narrow path that led deep into the forest. The trees arched overhead, filtering the fading sunlight, and the air was rich with the scent of pine and earth. Birds called from hidden perches, and the occasional rustle of small animals in the underbrush added to the sense that they had entered a world apart from the one she knew. Clara noticed how Kiona moved effortlessly, like he was part of the forest itself. Every step he took seemed deliberate yet natural, a careful navigation through the rhythm of the land. After a while, they reached a small clearing. In the center was a circle of stones, weathered by time and nature. The space seemed to hum with quiet energy, as if it held the memory of countless stories and ceremonies. Clara's eyes widened. She had never seen anything like it before. The stones were arranged carefully, each one positioned with intention, and small plants grew gently between them, untouched and serene. Kiona turned to her, his expression both serious and gentle. "This is a sacred place," he said. "It is where my people honor the land, celebrate life, and remember those who came before. Few outsiders have ever been invited here." Clara felt her breath catch. She had known Kiona to be kind and wise, but this was a level of trust she had not expected. To be shown something so personal, so deeply rooted in his culture, was an honor she felt humbled by. I am grateful," she whispered. Kiona nodded, then took a deep breath. "There is a tradition I want to share with you. It is about respect, about understanding, and about connection. But it is also about trust. You must promise to honor it, to hold it in your heart without judgment." "I promise," Clara said firmly, her voice steady despite the excitement and awe she felt. Kiona's eyes softened. He gestured for her to sit on one of the stones, while he positioned himself opposite her. The air between them seemed to hum with quiet anticipation. He spoke slowly, explaining the meaning behind the ceremony. It was a ritual that celebrated the bond between people and the land, a way of acknowledging life cycles and the unseen threads that connect all living things. Clara listened intently, absorbing every word, every nuance, and feeling the depth of respect embedded in every action he described. Then, with a gentle smile, Kiona said the words that made Clara's heart flutter. "My love, prepare yourself." Clara's mind raced. What did he mean? She had no idea, yet she trusted him completely. She closed her eyes briefly, taking a deep breath, and opened herself to whatever he was about to show her. Kiona began the ritual, explaining each step as he went. There was a quiet rhythm to his movements, a reverence in the way he handled the stones, the plants, and the small offerings placed carefully in the circle. Clara watched, mesmerized, feeling as though she had stepped into another time, a world where every action carried meaning and every gesture told a story. As the ritual unfolded, Kiona shared stories of his ancestors, their struggles, their wisdom, and their deep connection to the land. He spoke of the importance of balance, of giving and receiving, of honoring the past while living fully in the present. Clara felt a profound sense of awe. She realized that this was not just a ceremony, it was a window into the soul of his people, a gift of knowledge and trust. At one point, Kiona handed Clara a small stone, smooth and warm from the sun. "This is yours," he said. "It represents the bond you are forming with the land, with life, and with me. Keep it close, and let it remind you of what you have learned today." Clara took the stone carefully, feeling its weight in her hand. It was more than just a rock. It was a symbol of trust, of connection, and of a moment that she knew she would never forget. She looked at Kiona, and in his eyes she saw a reflection of the respect, care, and affection that had grown between them over the past weeks. When the ritual ended, they sat quietly in the clearing, letting the silence wash over them. The forest seemed to exhale with them, as if acknowledging the sacred moment that had just passed. Clara felt her heart full, her mind alive with wonder, and a deep sense of gratitude for being allowed to witness something so intimate and meaningful. Kiona spoke softly, breaking the silence. "You see, Clara, the world has many layers. Most people never take the time to understand them, but when you do, you see the beauty, the patterns, the connections that make life so extraordinary." Clara nodded, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. She felt changed in ways she could not fully articulate. The ritual had opened her heart, not just to Kiona, but to the world itself. She understood the depth of trust he had placed in her, and she felt honored beyond words. As they walked back toward the river, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold, Clara felt a quiet determination. She wanted to honor what she had learned, to carry it with her, and to respect the bond they had formed. Kiona walked beside her, his presence calm and steady, and she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. That night, as Clara lay in bed, she held the small stone close to her heart. She thought about the clearing, the ritual, and the trust Kiona had shown her. She realized that this experience was more than a lesson about culture or tradition. It was a lesson about life, about respect, about patience, and about love. The memory of Kiona's words, his gentle guidance, and the sacred ceremony would stay with her forever. In the following days, Clara and Kiona continued to meet by the river, but the memory of the ritual lingered between them. There was a new depth to their bond, a quiet understanding that went beyond words. They laughed, shared stories, and explored the land together, yet there was always an unspoken acknowledgement of what had been shared in the clearing, a moment that had changed both of them in subtle, profound ways. Clara began to notice small changes in herself. She was more patient, more observant, and more aware of the world around her. She found herself pausing to appreciate the beauty in simple things, the patterns in the bark of a tree, the song of a bird, the way the wind carried the scent of flowers. And every time she did, she felt Kiona's presence with her, a gentle reminder of the lessons he had shared and the trust he had placed in her. Kiona, too, seemed to carry a new ease in their companionship. He would sometimes glance at her with a quiet smile, as if acknowledging the understanding that had grown between them. There was a comfort in their connection, a sense that they were walking side by side not just in the forest, but in life itself. The bond between them deepened, built on shared experiences, respect, and the quiet moments of understanding that required no words. Clara knew that challenges lay ahead. The outside world could be harsh, and their relationship might not always be understood, but she also knew that what they shared was rare and precious. It was something worth protecting, worth nurturing, and worth believing in. And so, as the stars began to sparkle above the western hills, Clara and Kiona sat together by the river, feeling the calm and the wonder of the world around them. The ritual, the clearing, and the sacred trust they had shared became a cornerstone of their growing bond, a moment in time that would guide them, inspire them, and remind them of the power of connection, respect, and love. The days that followed the sacred ceremony by the river. brought a deeper closeness between Clara and Kiona, but they also introduced new challenges neither of them had expected. Life in the West was beautiful, wild, and free, yet it could be harsh and unforgiving. The world beyond their quiet riverside moments did not always understand the bond forming between a young settler woman and a man of Apache heritage. Clara could feel the weight of this reality pressing on her heart, even as she cherished every moment with Kiona. Her family noticed a change in her. Clara was quieter in the mornings, thoughtful, often distracted by memories of Kiona and the lessons he had shared. Her mother, gentle but cautious, approached her one afternoon. "Clara," she said softly, "you've been spending a lot of time near the river. Is there someone you've been seeing?" Clara hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. She did not want to hide her feelings, but she also knew the potential for misunderstanding. "Yes," she admitted finally, "there is someone, but he's different from anyone I've ever met. He's kind and he teaches me about the land and life. I feel safe with him." Her mother looked worried, but she did not scold her. "I understand," she said carefully, "but you must be careful, Clara. Not everyone will understand. There are people who will judge without knowing the truth." Clara nodded, feeling the weight of her mother's concern. She loved her family and wanted to respect them, but she also could not deny the pull of her heart. Kiona had become more than a friend. He had become a guide, a confidant, and a source of courage. She knew she would have to navigate this path carefully, balancing love, respect, and the realities of the world around her. Meanwhile, Kiona faced his own struggles. Though he was deeply connected to Clara, he also carried responsibilities to his people. He had a role in his community, a duty to protect traditions and teach younger members about the ways of their ancestors. He could not ignore these responsibilities, and yet he wanted to spend time with Clara, to share his world with her. The tension of these dual obligations sometimes weighed heavily on him. There were nights when he would sit quietly, staring at the stars, thinking about how best to honor both his people and his heart. One day, as Clara walked toward their usual meeting spot, she noticed Kiona standing by the river, his posture tense. The wind stirred his hair and his expression was thoughtful, almost troubled. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently, approaching him. Kiona turned, his eyes softening when he saw her. "I am fine," he said, though she could see the worry hidden behind his calm words. "It is the world beyond this place. There are those who do not understand, those who might not see the kindness in what we share." Clara reached for his hand, feeling the familiar warmth and strength in his touch. "We cannot control what others think," she said, "but we can choose how we respond. We have each other and we have the lessons we have learned together. That is what matters." Kiona smiled faintly, grateful for her courage and understanding. Yet, even as they held hands, both of them knew that the outside world could be unpredictable. Whispers in town, cautious glances from neighbors, and the ever-present tension between settlers and native tribes reminded them that their bond, though strong, existed in a delicate balance. Despite these challenges, they continued to spend time together, exploring the land, learning from each other, and sharing quiet moments by the river. Kiona taught Clara how to track the paths of animals more accurately, how to identify plants that could heal, and how to respect the balance of nature. Clara shared her thoughts, dreams, and fears, finding comfort in the way Kiona listened without judgment. Their relationship deepened, built on trust, mutual respect, and an understanding that love sometimes required patience and perseverance. However, there were moments when the tension became almost unbearable. One afternoon, as they returned from a long walk through the forest, they noticed a group of townspeople nearby, their expressions curious and cautious. Clara felt a sudden unease, the familiar warmth in her chest tinged with fear. Kiona's grip on her hand tightened slightly, and she could sense his protective instincts rising. They passed without incident, but the encounter left a mark on Clara's heart. She realized that their love, though private and beautiful, existed in a world that did not always welcome it. The whispers of judgment, the cautious glances, and the uncertainty of acceptance reminded her that they would need courage, resilience, and wisdom to navigate the challenges ahead. As the days turned into weeks, Clara noticed another shift, her own confidence and understanding growing. She began to see that love, respect, and trust were not just feelings but choices. Each day, she chose to be present with Kiona, to honor the lessons he had shared, and to embrace the challenges that came with their connection. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. Kiona, too, grew in his own ways. He saw the world through Clara's eyes and recognized the strength of her heart. He admired her courage, her curiosity, and her willingness to learn. He understood that their bond was not just about affection. It was about shared growth, mutual respect, and the understanding that true connection required both patience and commitment. Yet, despite their growing strength, the challenges remained. Clara's family voiced concerns, and some neighbors whispered about her friendship with Kiona. There were moments when doubt crept into her mind, when the weight of judgment felt heavy and isolating. She wondered if love alone could withstand the pressures of society, the expectations of family, and the uncertainty of the world around them. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills and painted the sky with shades of orange and violet, Clara and Kiona sat quietly by the river. The water reflected the fading light, a mirror of calm and serenity. Clara leaned her head on Kiona's shoulder, feeling the warmth and strength of his presence. "Do you ever worry?" she asked softly. Kiona looked down at her, his eyes thoughtful. "Of course I do," he admitted, "but worry does not control us. We must choose how to act, how to respond, and how to honor what is important. That is the true test of strength and love." Clara nodded, absorbing his words. She realized that their bond was not just a matter of emotion. It was a commitment to face the world together, to protect and nurture what they had, and to grow through every challenge. She felt a surge of determination. They could not control the world, but they could control how they met it, side by side, with courage, patience, and trust. The days that followed tested them further. Small conflicts arose in town, some more pointed than others. Clara's friends whispered questions, curious about her constant absence, and her family expressed concern for her safety. Kiona faced challenges as well, balancing the expectations of his people with his desire to spend time with Clara. Yet through it all, they leaned on each other. Their shared experiences, lessons, and moments of connection became a foundation, strengthening their bond and helping them navigate the uncertainty around them. Clara learned that love was not only about joy, laughter, and shared adventures. It was also about resilience, trust, and understanding. It was about listening to one another, respecting differences, and standing together in the face of challenges. And Kiona learned that opening his heart, trusting someone from a different world, and sharing the sacred aspects of his life could be a source of strength rather than weakness. By the time the first hints of autumn appeared, with leaves turning golden and the air growing crisp, Clara and Kiona had developed a quiet confidence. They knew the world would not always understand them, but they also knew the depth of their connection. They had shared sacred rituals, learned from the land, and built a bond that transcended fear and judgment. And while challenges remained, they had discovered a courage and trust within themselves and each other that could withstand even the most difficult days. One night, as they sat by the river under a canopy of stars, Clara held Kiona's hand and whispered, "No matter what happens, I am grateful for you, for everything you've taught me, and for the trust we share." Kiona squeezed her hand gently. "And I am grateful for you, Clara. We will face whatever comes together. Our bond is stronger than whispers, stronger than fear. We must simply hold on to what is true and never let it go." And so, despite the challenges, the uncertainty, and the quiet tension of the world around them, Clara and Kiona continued to walk their shared path. They faced the struggles not with despair, but with understanding, courage, and unwavering commitment to each other. They knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but they also knew that the love and trust they had built could guide them through every obstacle, every shadow, and every moment of doubt. Through these trials, Clara discovered a new strength within herself. She realized that love was not just about feelings. It was about action, about courage, and about the willingness to stand by what mattered most. And Kiona, too, discovered that sharing his heart, his traditions, and his world could create a bond unbreakable, capable of facing the challenges of the West together. The first snow of winter had begun to fall, delicate flakes drifting from the sky and settling on the earth like a soft white blanket. The landscape of the West had changed once again, and Clara could see the beauty of the season in every glimmering branch, every frozen ripple in the river. She had spent the day with Kiona, walking along familiar trails, laughing quietly as they tested each other's balance on icy stones, and sharing stories beside the river. Each moment felt precious, a continuation of the bond they had nurtured over weeks and months. As the sun began to dip below the hills, casting long shadows across the snow, Clara and Kiona stopped at a familiar clearing. It was the same place where he had shared the sacred ritual with her weeks ago, a spot that had become deeply significant to both of them. The stones were dusted with snow, and the trees around them stood tall and silent, as if honoring the memories embedded in that place. Clara shivered slightly from the cold, but felt a warmth in her heart that made the chill almost pleasant. Kiona turned to her, his expression soft and steady, the calm presence she had come to rely on so deeply. "This clearing has seen many moments," he said quietly. "It has held joy, respect, learning, and trust. And now it holds another memory, one that marks the beginning of something new for us." Clara's eyes widened slightly. She felt her pulse quicken, a mixture of curiosity and excitement. "Something new?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kiona nodded. "Yes. You have been by my side through lessons, laughter, and challenges. You have learned about the land, about patience, about courage, and about the beauty of life. And in that time I have learned about your strength, your kindness, and your heart. Today, I want to honor that." Clara felt her breath catch. She had anticipated many moments with Kiona, quiet walks, shared stories, the sacred ritual, but she did not know what he meant by honoring their bond in this way. She looked into his eyes and saw a seriousness that made her feel both grounded and excited. Kiona reached into a small pouch he carried and pulled out the smooth stone he had given her during the ritual weeks ago. He held it carefully, as though it were a treasure beyond measure. "This stone has been with you through everything we have shared," he said. "It represents trust, respect, and connection. Today, it represents our commitment to face the world together, with courage and understanding." Clara's hand trembled slightly as she touched the stone. It had been a symbol before, but now, in this moment, it carried a deeper meaning. It was not just a token of trust between them. It was a promise, a declaration of love that spoke louder than words ever could. Kiona continued, his voice calm and steady, yet filled with emotion. "The world may not always understand us. There will be those who judge, who question, who try to create distance between us. But we have learned something stronger than fear. We have learned patience, respect, and trust. We have learned to see the world and each other clearly, without judgment. That is the foundation of our bond." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. She had felt the weight of judgment, the pressure of the world around her, and the challenges of balancing love with expectation. Yet here, with Kiona, she realized that what they had built was unshakable. It was not fragile or fleeting. It was grounded in understanding, experience, and shared courage. "I understand," she whispered, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "I will face whatever comes with you. I will honor what we have, and I will not let fear or doubt take it away." Kiona smiled, a warmth spreading across his face that made Clara's heart swell. He reached out and gently took her hand, holding it in his. "Then we are ready," he said. "Ready to continue our journey together in this world that is sometimes uncertain but always full of beauty." As the first stars began to appear in the sky, Clara and Kiona walked back toward the river, the snow crunching softly beneath their feet. Every step felt purposeful, filled with a quiet sense of determination and hope. Clara realized that their journey together had been about more than love. It had been about growth, courage, and learning to face life's challenges with an open heart. She felt a sense of pride in herself, in Kiona, and in the bond they had cultivated so carefully. Over the following weeks, the bond between Clara and Kiona continued to deepen. They navigated the winter landscape together, learning to adapt to the changing environment, discovering new paths, and sharing quiet moments by the fire when the cold became too harsh. Each day was a lesson, each moment a chance to understand more about each other and the world around them. Clara also noticed how her own confidence had grown. She felt stronger, more capable, and more grounded in herself. The challenges they had faced, the judgment of neighbors, the worries of family, and the uncertainty of their place in the world, had not weakened her. They had made her more resilient. She knew that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. Kiona, too, had grown. He had learned to share his world, his traditions, and his heart more openly, discovering that trust could build a bridge between people, even across differences of culture and background. He had seen Clara's strength, her kindness, and her commitment, and it had inspired him to embrace hope and possibility even more fully. One quiet evening, as snowflakes drifted silently through the air, Clara and Kiona sat on a small hill overlooking the river. The water reflected the silver light of the moon, and the trees stood as silent witnesses to the bond that had grown between them. Clara leaned her head on Kiona's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence and the steady rhythm of his heart. "We have come a long way," she said softly, "and yet I feel like this is just the beginning." Kiona nodded, his gaze fixed on the river. "It is the beginning of a lifetime," he replied. "A lifetime of learning, of growing, and of facing the world together. We will encounter challenges, yes, but we will also find beauty, joy, and love in ways that are worth every struggle." Clara smiled, feeling a quiet peace settle over her. She understood now that love was not just about happiness or excitement. It was about trust, patience, courage, and the willingness to stand together, no matter what. She felt grateful for every moment, every lesson, and every challenge they had faced, knowing that each had brought them closer and made their connection stronger. As winter deepened, the world around them became a quieter, more reflective place. The snow covered the hills and forests, creating a serene and peaceful landscape. Clara and Kiona continued to explore, to learn from each other, and to share moments of quiet wonder. Every walk, every conversation, and every shared smile strengthened the foundation of their bond. One morning, as the first light of dawn painted the sky in soft shades of pink and gold, Clara awoke with a sense of clarity. She looked at Kiona, still sleeping beside her, and felt a profound gratitude. She had found not just love, but a partnership, a friendship, and a trust that would guide her through whatever the future held. Later that day, as they walked together through a snow-covered meadow, Kiona paused and looked at her with a gentle smile. "No matter what comes," he said, "we have each other. We have learned, we have grown, and we have built something that cannot be taken away." Clara nodded, her heart full. "And I will carry it with me always," she replied, "through every season, every challenge, and every joy." As they continued walking, hand in hand, the world around them seemed to reflect their bond. The snow sparkled like tiny diamonds, the river flowed quietly and steadily, and the trees stood tall and unwavering. Clara realized that life, like the land, had its cycles of challenge and beauty, of struggle and serenity. And she understood that with love, trust, and courage, even the most difficult seasons could become meaningful, full of growth and wonder. By the end of winter, Clara and Kiona had solidified their bond in ways that were quiet yet profound. They had faced the challenges of judgment, distance, and cultural differences, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. Their love was not only a feeling, it was a choice, a commitment, and a journey of mutual respect and understanding. And so, as the snow began to melt and the first signs of spring appeared on the horizon, Clara and Kiona stood together by the river, looking out at the land that had brought them together. They felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. Their journey had taught them patience, courage, and the power of trust. It had shown them the beauty of connection, the strength of love, and the importance of respecting and learning from one another. In that quiet moment, with the river flowing steadily before them and the sky painted in shades of hope, Clara and Kiona understood that their story was just beginning. And with hearts full of love, gratitude, and courage, they were ready to embrace the future together, whatever it might hold.